There are moments in history where the world pauses, moments where the dust of empire settles for just a heartbeat, and humanity looks toward a single figure, not because of fear, not because of power, but because of the quiet strength they carry within. This is the story of a ruler who could command legions, yet chose to command himself. A man who held the reins of a mighty empire, yet understood that the greatest empire he would ever govern was his own soul. The world saw a throne. He saw a responsibility. The world saw a crown of gold. He saw the weight of decisions that could shape lives with a whisper. The world expected him to rise above others. He understood he must first rise above himself. People believed power was loud. Trumpets, declarations, victories carved in stone. But he discovered that real power is quiet. It is the kind of strength that asks nothing from the world, yet changes everything within it. He did not walk into rooms to be seen. He walked into rooms to understand. He listened more than he commanded. He learned more than he spoke. And while others sought admiration, he sought truth. Greatness was not his goal. Greatness was simply the result of who he chose to be. While kings before him demanded loyalty, he offered guidance. While conquerors before him demanded obedience, he offered example. His leadership did not begin on the battlefield or in the halls of marble. It began in the quiet mornings when he rose before the sun, sat with his thoughts, and confronted everything the world could not see. He questioned his anger. He examined his ambition. He studied the shape of his pride. He understood that the fiercest war any human would wage is the war against their own impulses. The kind of war fought not with swords, but with silence. Not with shouts, but with stillness. Other rulers believed that to be feared was to be respected. He knew that to be respected, one must first be honorable. He did not allow the throne to change him. He allowed himself to change the meaning of the throne. When flattery surrounded him like perfume, he remained grounded. When temptation reached for him with gold in its fingers, he remained unshaken. When the praise of the crowd roared like thunder, he remembered that thunder comes and goes, but a steady heart endures. He mastered the art of remaining still in a world that demanded motion. The art of remaining gentle in a world that celebrated cruelty. The art of remaining human in a position that could easily end humanity in him. Any who rule lands, few rule themselves, and so his greatness did not echo through history because he conquered nations. It echoed because he conquered arrogance. He conquered indulgence. He conquered the seductive idea that power makes one above others. His lesson reaches across centuries. If you wish to lead, learn to lead yourself. If you wish to influence the world, learn to calm the storms within your own chest. If you wish to be remembered, let humility be your foundation, not pride. For the one who learns to rule themselves becomes greater than any king, any emperor, any conqueror who ever lived. They become a force that time cannot erode, a symbol that history does not forget, a reminder that true power does not shout. True power breathes. True power is quiet. True power is earned within. The world believed that because he ruled an empire, he could take anything he desired. Fleets of ships, treasuries of gold, feasts that stretched beyond the horizon, voices that praised him with every breath. But he had seen what desire does to those who let it burn without restraint. He had watched rulers before him fall not by the sword of an enemy, but by their own hunger. Hunger for pleasure, hunger for recognition, hunger for more. He understood the truth that eludes many. A man who is slave to his desires can never rule. So while others in power reached outward, he reached inward. There were nights when temptation called to him like a whisper passing through marble halls. A whisper promising comfort. A whisper promising indulgence. A whisper promising the sweet softness of forgetting responsibility. But he did not listen. He knew that if a ruler cannot say no to himself, his commands carry no weight. His authority becomes an echo. His power becomes hollow. So he chose discipline. Not the discipline of chains or force, but the discipline of choice. The discipline that comes from waking each day and deciding to be better, even when the world gave him every reason not to be. When the table was full, he ate with moderation. When the praise was loud, he received it with silence. When admiration reached for him like warm hands, he stepped back. Not because he feared joy, but because he respected balance. He had seen what happens to those who let desire run free. They become intoxicated with their own voice. They become consumed by their own reflection. They begin to believe the world was built for them rather than entrusted to them. He refused to become a prisoner of his impulses. There were advisors who could not understand him, men who said, "Why refuse what is already yours? Why restrain yourself when the world kneels before you?" He answered them not with words, but with the way he lived. He showed them that a leader is not shaped in moments of luxury, but in moments of restraint. He showed them that self-control is not the denial of life, but the elevation of the soul. There were times of hardship, too. Moments where grief pressed against his chest, where anger rose like a storm, where frustration begged to speak louder than reason. But he breathed. He waited. He allowed emotion to settle before he acted. And because of this, his decisions carried clarity. His actions carried meaning. His leadership carried peace. In a world where many act first and think later, he chose to think first and act only when necessary. Discipline did not make him cold. Discipline made him wise. He did not live life untouched by desire. He felt every pull, every temptation, every longing. But he did not let these forces steer his hand. Instead, he guided them, shaped them, transformed them. He understood that desire is not an enemy. It is simply a river. If left to flood, it destroys. But if channeled with care, it can power an entire civilization. So he lived with purpose. He lived with control. He lived with a quiet strength that many saw, but few could understand. And history would remember him not for what he took, but for what he chose to hold back. For the one who controls desire masters not only himself, but the path of his destiny. There is a kind of wisdom that does not come from books, nor from teachers, nor from the applause of crowds. It is the wisdom that rises only when the world grows quiet, when the noise of ambition fades, when the heart is finally still enough to hear itself. He lived surrounded by voices. Generals, senators, envoys, scholars, soldiers. All of them speaking, all of them advising, all of them insisting they knew the path forward. In the chambers of empire, noise is constant. A steady thunder meant to remind a ruler that every moment demands decision. And yet in that endless storm of demands, he found something extraordinary. He found stillness, not silence, but stillness, a calm that came from within, the kind of calm that does not ask the world to quiet, but teaches the soul how to remain steady regardless of what surrounds it. He understood that when a mind is restless, the world becomes distorted, fear grows sharper, anger burns hotter, pride becomes louder, everything feels urgent, everything feels heavy. A restless mind moves quickly and destroys quickly, so he learned to step away. Not from responsibility, but from the emotion that clouds responsibility. When wars were brewing, he did not rush to raise a sword. He sat, he reflected. He allowed the truth beneath the noise to reveal itself. When advisors argued, he listened not to their words, but to the intentions that shaped those words. When crowds cheered his name, he did not drink their praise like wine. He let it pass through him like wind passing through leaves. For he knew that if a man believes every voice that praises him, he will soon believe every voice that deceives him. So, he returned again and again to the quiet. Some mornings before the city awoke, he would walk the long stone corridors where torchlight flickered along the walls. He would step into the courtyard where the sky had not yet brightened, and he would breathe. Just breathe. In that breath, he found himself. In that breath, he remembered his purpose. In that breath, he learned what many rulers never learn. A calm mind sees clearly. A calm mind chooses wisely. A calm mind does not react. It responds. There were crises that could have shattered him. There were betrayals that could have hardened him. There were losses that could have broken him. But each time he returned to the stillness, not running from pain, but sitting with it, understanding it, allowing it to soften the heart rather than darken it. He realized that wisdom is not a gift. Wisdom is a practice. Wisdom is earned in the quiet moments we are often too afraid to face. Most men run from their thoughts. He sat with his. Most men fear silence. He embraced it. And in that silence, he found a truth. A person who cannot sit with themselves will never understand themselves. And a person who does not understand themselves cannot hope to lead others. So he became a ruler not just of land and law, but of thought and reflection. He showed the world that strength is not only in the arm that lifts the sword, but in the mind that chooses when the sword should not be lifted at all. History remembers him not simply as a man of power, but as a man of presence, a man who taught that the quiet mind is the strongest throne. For the one who finds stillness finds clarity. And the one who finds clarity cannot be shaken by anything the world gives or anything the world takes away. Power is a strange thing. To some it is a throne to be climbed, to others a crown to be displayed. But for him, power was a test, a mirror that reflected the truth of a person more clearly than a hardship ever could. He had seen how power changes men. Good men, honest men, thoughtful men. Men who once spoke humbly and walked gently, but who, once given power, became strangers even to themselves. Their voices grew louder. Their hands grew greedier, their hearts filled with arrogance. They believed the world existed for their pleasure, and the people in it were only stepping stones to their own legacy. But he learned something they did not. Power does not corrupt. Power reveals. It reveals who you always were beneath the surface. It shows the cracks in your character. It exposes the shadows you kept hidden. It brings into light the impulses you once pretended you had conquered. And so he watched himself carefully, honestly, relentlessly. He understood that the greatest enemy a ruler could ever face was the part of himself that wanted to lose control. He understood that it is easy to rule when everything goes your way. But true strength is revealed when desire challenges discipline, when anger challenges patience, when ego challenges wisdom. There came a moment in his life when those around him encouraged indulgence. They told him that because he ruled, he deserved more than others, more comfort, more praise, more luxury, more freedom to act without consequence. But he refused to be treated as a god because he did not want to forget he was. He knew that the moment a man believes he is above others, he falls far below what he was meant to become. So he chose a different path, a quieter path, a more difficult path. Instead of asking, "What am I owed?" he asked, "What is required of me?" Instead of seeking admiration, he sought understanding. Instead of pursuing glory, he pursued meaning, and the people saw it. They felt it. They followed him, not out of fear, but out of respect. Not out of obligation, but out of recognition of the integrity he carried. You see, anyone can build wealth. Anyone can demand loyalty. Anyone can stand on a balcony and wave to crowds. But not everyone can look into their own heart and confront the weaknesses hiding there. Not everyone can say no to themselves when yes comes easily. Not everyone can choose responsibility over ego. That choice is rare. That choice is sacred. That choice defines a leader. And so the lesson he left behind was not written on monuments or carved into the stone of palaces. It was written in the lives he touched and the calm he carried. In the example he set, the lesson is simple to understand yet difficult to live. True power is not the power to rule others. True power is the power to rule oneself. For the one who conquers lands may be remembered for a generation, but the one who conquers the self becomes eternal.